got anything else we need to add here?
We're on, she said.
Oh,
Just so you know.
Okay. We'll call this meeting, Sunny County Commissioners, to order for Thursday. Actually, it's January 31st, is it not? We've got,
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. Wow. Is this the agenda for last time?
no, this was January 31st.
Oh, okay. For Tuesday, January, please join me in the pledge.
Happy Monday.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United
United
States
States of America and to
And to
the
the
republic
republic
for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please join me in a short prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask that you give us your guidance in doing what is your will for those people we represent. We ask this through your Son, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I guess we need to go through roll call first.
Commissioner Kirschner,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Stacy.
Here.
Okay. So, we need a motion to accept the journal and to approve the digital audio video recording of the previous board session from Thursday, January 26th. That's where I got that time. And the written index of the meeting. Accept the
So
motion.
moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously. Let's get it, any adjustments to the agenda here? Commissioner Stacy, Commissioner Thomas.
No. Other than, I think the executives need an executive session for personnel.
Executive session immediately following this
That was on
meeting.
here. That's good.
Okay,
I've
anything else?
got a Board of Elections construction update. And I also have a request from the city for an upgrade on some dispatch software. So, I guess that would be under new.
Shane?
I just wanted to add for the record that the executive session is to discuss museum personnel and county administrator, just for the record.
Okay,
And I want to make an update on regional planning, active transportation, and transportation committee.
okay, so we now have a new agenda.
Yes. Did you want to bring up that opiate? I printed it out for you.
The opiate task force,
The meeting?
yeah. And that's with the AG, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's begin with the agenda that was sent out first, and then we'll get these other things. Justice Center update, Commissioner Stacy.
The leadership team meeting was on Thursday, and at that meeting, we got the standard updates that we get from Gilbane, and I guess main point on the financial side to point at is that they've got the forecasted commitment at the 14.7, which is where it should be. We've got availability of funds, the projected budget of 15.6. So the forecast looks good. We do have some concerns on some dollars that we're gonna need to maybe do some trimming on, so we proceeded to walk with Silling through some of those interior decisions, because it falls under the interior design stuff, on finishes and that kind of stuff. I think we had a list of 11 different items that we're looking at. We've got some alternatives to save some money on. As we keep an eye on owner's contingency, where that's at, where we want it to be at this point in the project, et cetera. So they're gonna keep us on target in terms of when decisions on any of these changes on finishes have to be made. We've got a few months lead time on that, so we're in good shape, but we're keeping those out there and making sure we're looking into it. And other than that, construction continues. We've had some nicer days for January than today might be, but things continue to move along. They're supposed to be doing the flooring, some of the deck work this week, as well as they indicated, we asked about the topping off ceremony, which would be when they lay the last piece of steel. And the target for that is the middle of April. So just kind of a
Yeah, thank you.
rough synopsis.
Very good. I guess the good news with the upgrades, or the, I guess they really aren't upgrades, they are specs that the engineer has drawn, and we could use materials that were, that cost less than that to finish things off. The good news is that anything that we looked at that we would have had to decide on the exterior, we've included everything to spec at this point, and we would anticipate that we will have sufficient funds to keep everything at spec. However, there is the option to reduce things by, you know, I think in this case, the totals were,
Just shy of 200,000 maybe?
just shy of 200,000.
Yeah.
So we have that wiggle room, if you will. Okay, 81 Jefferson Street, Shane, why don't you speak to that?
Okay, to me, 81 Jefferson Street is a building that, we need to take some action on. Essentially, we've left it as storage for a number of years. I don't know how far back that goes, actually.
We moved in 2006. and we were the
So,
last
for 11
occupants.
years. So we need to create some sort of timeline for, getting that, I think, back into the private sector would be my goal. It came from the private sector, let's return it to the private sector. So, I would like to see us take some action on moving that timeline along. It's, my proposal would be that, we ask any department heads or other county officials that have materials that's stored in there, to have them come to us by May 1st with a proposal or a request for resources in order to deal with whatever they have stored there. And then, have set a sale date of September 5th, so that there's a timeline on that, and put some dates to it.
I know we indicated when we had a discussion, I think it was at a work session, about records retention. And kind of putting it out there that those who didn't have a plan in place, that was a bit of a paperwork reduction for what's being kept and making sure they abide by whatever the code says for them, that they started doing that. I don't know which ones did not include anything in their current approved budget requests that regarded record retention other than possibly the clerk of courts. I'm
Yeah,
not
she
sure
did.
if any of the others specifically did or not. And/or had other means of doing that already in place, but that'll be the challenge to that, is if they need much in money. But I think it's a great idea that they kind of put a timeline out there that says, hey, you're gonna need to have a plan, because we're gonna keep moving on, possibly moving this building out of our inventory.
Yeah.
We have a meeting scheduled for folks to talk about record retention. One of the topics would be that.
Yeah, I think the IT committee was going to get back together because there seemed to be some interest that the IT committee take this on.
I thought there was something that came across with the date.
Yeah, I don't think there's a date
That
set
was
yet.
that was the standard record retention meeting,
Oh,
records
For
commission.
disposal
Yeah,
of
for
records.
disposal that we have to do in order
Okay.
to dispose of records. And that's where just the different departments bring things in that they're disposing for the record, indicating what it is that they're getting rid of,
yeah.
based on their retention schedule.
So that meeting couldn't be combined with discussion about record retention and digitizing?
I guess we would just need to expand the invite list so that others know that we're gonna discuss that, because
Well, since
they
you-
only bring something that if they have
Something to get
something
rid
to
of.
dispose of, yeah.
Well, I think since you're gathering that group together anyway, why don't we at least have that topic breached?
We can do that.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas, I'm just not certain as to the logic behind the dates. Tell me, May 31st and September 5th?
Well, that was just 90 days to get a plan together, and then we would have all summer to move records or whatever we needed out. And then, if someone were to buy that building, we would give them a couple months in the fall to work on it, and if they needed to do some rehab, and then they could move that inside in the winter. That's all I was thinking, is that we would have, that's 90 days to develop a plan, and then, another 4 months to execute the plan. 5, if you, 30 days after the sale, we have to be out of it. So,
What is the process? I know we have a couple of vehicles by which we can publicly sell a building. I know it has to be publicly sold.
Auction.
Does it have to be a live physical auction? Can it be an online auction? What?
It can be an online auction.
Okay. Okay, so we would set a, you're thinking an auction sale date of September 5th?
yeah, that was when I looked at the calendar, that seemed to make sense.
Okay. Can we advise those people who have an interest in this? I know what response we'll probably get, but can we advise those people who have an interest in this? In other words, those departments that have records stored there of our plans, and to give them, until next week or so to respond to that timeline and see if there are anything.
Yeah, I would hope
we're not overlooking?
that Stacy would send a letter to anybody that might be affected by this, and notify them that our
Okay.
intentions are to move this out, and to if there's a request for additional resources or space, but we need it back in
Well-
writing so it's on record, so we know what we're dealing with.
Our next scheduled meeting is next Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay. So let's get a notice sent to them that they need to respond to us by then. Some action may very well be taken at that meeting.
I don't recall if were the judges, did they have stuff in there? There's some evidence stuff in there?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if what their plans were once Justice Center, but their plan, I could potentially see that not fitting if their plan was to get that moved into something with the move into the new building.
Justice Center.
But I don't know that. So I guess everybody's got stuff in there needs
Yeah.
to get notified.
And the Justice Center does have provisions for, keeping old evidence and also for storage, I believe.
Right, I just didn't know if they planned on moving any of the old stuff, or they were gonna get that into somewhere else. I know they have, I think it's murder trial stuff they have to keep forever.
Do you also want to, and obviously we're not gonna sell this building right away, but do you also want to include in the discussion Carnegie Library?
Yeah, I was going to add that on. I was going to say something after. I didn't want to muddy this discussion, but I want to note that and my goal would be to have the Carnegie up for sale in March of 2018. The old library.
Okay.
That's ample time after we assume the occupancy of the Joint Justice Center is going to occur, and it's kind of an early spring auction. And if somebody in the private sector has some ideas for it, they would have time to plan for it and then time to execute it in decent months.
Yeah, I think at least we can plant that seed at this point to know that that building probably will, those would be the only two unoccupied buildings that the county owns, is that true?
Well, we got a TB hospital. It's out by
South,
out
okay.
south of town,
Yeah.
yeah, but in town,
Okay.
empty.
Which
All right.
needs rebranded, I think.
TB, it does. Yep. Or
Okay.
Sabbath, that's what everybody called it.
In respect for the engineer's time, let's talk about Wolf Creek so that he can either stay or not stay at the best time. You guys will be able to leave after that discussion. So, Commissioner Stacy, what do we have here?
All right, we have the Wolf Creek petition project that we were to the point of received the contracts that we put out the proposals for, and reviewed those and negotiated with the best bid as reviewed by Mark, and are ready to move on that contract. So didn't know if you would like Mark for this sake of all of us, it's been a little while, to give us a brief synopsis of the project overall and where we take. I think you both received, I think, the timeline of what this contract would do for us and how it would move through. Okay, you both received that in the email? An email
Yes,
for that? Okay.
yeah.
That talked about where this contract takes us and the time frame projected on that. So from there, I'll let Mark take it, and I'll give each of you, this is just a real quick outline of the actual dates. Beth drafted this up for us on the project and where it's been. And like I said, this is very brief considering the history that this project has.
I guess just a brief synopsis of where we've been. Back in, I think, 2012, the project was initiated through petition, through Ohio drainage law, and that set forth a series of events that are required by law, one of which was to have a viewing of the petition, which was to clean basically an 11-mile stretch of the main channel of Wolf Creek for flood control, at which time we did a preliminary evaluation of that channel, determined that it would be, the benefit would outweigh the cost, which would be true for almost any drainage project in Seneca County, as we are a drainage county. And proceeded through the viewing, the first hearing, and then the final hearing, where the commissioners decided to grant the prayer petition and order the engineer to develop plans and specifications, at which time we worked with the Conservation District to inventory the channel and inventory the log jam, sediment bars, and dead and leaning trees that would need to be removed as part of the petition. And then tried with little success to work with the individual landowners along the channel to do the work on their own to try to save a substantial amount of money for the entire watershed. And while we got some work done, and most of the landowners, and I don't recall the exact number, I think 42 landowners, as opposed to the close to 6,000 people involved in the actual project. Thought it'd be a lot easier to target 42 landowners than it would be to deal with the entire thousands and thousands. But I guess it was probably a year and a half ago, realized that that effort was probably mostly in vain, and it just was not producing the results we were hoping and expecting. And we decided the best course of action was to go outside and hire an engineering firm to do the drainage plans and follow through with not only the plans, specifications, but also the contract and overseeing the project once it goes to contract. We went out for requests for proposals. We got several proposals in. Determined that Feller Finch, and specifically Steve Darmafoyle, who is a hydraulic engineer for them, who has worked on drainage petition projects in the past, would probably be our best choice. And for the past 4 months, maybe 5 months, we've been negotiating with them with the terms of what they would do, how they would do it, and of course putting the dollars and the numbers together with that. So at this time, I think we have our best estimate or our best proposal from them, and the next step would be for the commissioners to approve that so that we can get underway and under contract for them to begin work on doing the final plans and specifications for this project. So, with that, if it is approved, then we will, I already told them that it was going to be on the agenda, and I would start working with them expeditiously.
Anything to add?
We're respecting Mark's time.
In the assumption that we approve it, tell me what other roadblocks there may be after this.
Well, there is always the interest of a landowner to file an injunction in the courts. Now, we did have the final hearing, and landowners have 30 days after the grant of the prayer petition to file a dissent against the commissioners for that. We had no such thing happen. While I know that there are a lot of landowners that were, not necessarily in favor of the project, nobody came forward to say that they did not want the project. I guess the biggest roadblock I could see it in the 30-year history plus 50-year history. Actually, it is over 50 years. It was in the 50s and 60s, so almost 60-year history of Wolf Creek. It has been petitioned before. It sat in the courts for decades. And it wasn't until 92, that was in the 60s, and in 92, when I first started working with the Conservation District, I worked with the prosecutor's office, Lane Knutson back then, and we removed and worked through the courts to remove the injunction so that landowners could get their own 401 and 404, basically EPA and Corps of Engineer permits to do work on their own. So while the idea is that the project would just proceed under contract, if a landowner files an injunction and the court orders us to stop, I am not going to violate a court order. And sometimes it sat in court for decades.
So, the other point I think that we need to make, this is reimbursable to the county from the landowners?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
all the costs, although they would be upfronted by the county, by the county commissioners, these funds would be part of the assessment process, so that, if there is X number of dollars that the commissioners forward or front for this project, when we go to final assessments and send out the bills, those dollars get included in.
Let's talk about the risks of that. Under your scenario, let's say we have 20% of the project done.
Mhm.
There's an injunction filed.
Mhm.
Is that 20% reimbursable?
No,
Okay, so the risk
Not at that
is,
time.
I mean, the risk is that we could have 3/4 of the project done,
right,
I would suggest. Somebody would file an injunction, and that would mean that we wouldn't get, well, it may take a long period of time
That is
to
correct.
ever get the money back. I mean, if it's another 40 years,
Right.
it would have to be redone anyway,
Right.
right? Okay, so what numbers are we talking about here?
The total of the contract, again, this is not the construction because we wouldn't know that, but for design phase, bidding phase, and the assessment phase is 36,800 combined.
Do we have a notion to move forward?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One is, we have had a once-in-a-generation tree kill. So the ash tree, I mean, it really is a different environment than it was 4 years ago. There needs to be some work done, so there's a little more urgency to it. That's one thing. The other thing that I think, if we're inclined to move forward, which I am, I think we need to send something to Sandusky County and ask them to consider their side of the project, their downstream, as a request. That part of the drainage. So we're going to do our piece. We'd respectfully request that they consider their piece. And I also just want to say that there's been some really good citizens out there that have done their own maintenance, and I think we need to acknowledge that they've maintained their own
Yes.
portions of it.
Yeah,
And that's important to note, that they're being good neighbors. So,
Absolutely true, we've discussed that for sure.
yeah, and while, Sandusky County was brought on board at the beginning of this and decided that they were not interested in joining the petition, if that were to happen, for instance, that throws us into a different section of code for joint ditches instead of just single county ditches, and we basically start over from square one.
we can be a
So,
single county ditch
Right,
and
I
do
just-
our part, and
yeah.
just say, hey, we're doing our part. We'd love you to consider to do your part.
Yeah, and that's
would be
that's
okay,
great.
right?
Oh yeah, I mean we're a drainage county,
Yeah.
and we got to get water from here to there. So
So, I mean, just respectfully request that they consider it.
Yeah.
Then I do have one, kind of technical question on the bid. Are all the bids that came back, were they lump sum bids for
no,
engineering?
we in engineering practice, it is against the law to bid a project. So when we went out for RFQs, whatever you want to call them, you select the best firm for the job, not negotiating price. You are not allowed to, it is actually against Ohio law for us to say, hey, what's your price going to be, what's your price going to be, what's your price going to be. We select a firm based on their merits and then negotiate the terms of the contract and the price with that firm. And that is the way it has to be. So there were no other quotes, no other bids that came in to say, you know, you're 35,000, you're 20,000, we're gonna take you. It has to be negotiated after you select the firm to negotiate with.
Yeah, and so my question on that, then the follow-up is, do you, as a practice, always do lump sum, or do you do a percent of the project? This is probably more relevant for a conversation we're gonna have later, but I'm just curious.
It's mixed. Some people do, if you know the cost of the project, you know, for instance, a bridge project, we are gonna have a very good understanding and a very good knowledge of how much that bridge is gonna cost today, before you even start building it. I can tell you within a few $1,000s on a, you know, $500,000 project, how much that bridge is gonna cost. So we would more than likely, now we don't hire any of that out, but a percentage of the project would be an appropriate thing to do, because everybody knows what that percentage is gonna be, and they know it's gonna be a real number. With this project, even though we submitted an estimate, that estimate was based upon a lot of people doing their own work. We have no idea what the cost of the project's
Right.
gonna be.
Right,
So we have no idea what to even say, percentage of what.
right.
So in that case, a lump sum is the better way to go, because you are protected
Yep, I like that.
from the high side.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, I appreciate that.
Aren't many of the projects though you bid, don't you come up with an estimate, we have to be within 10% of that?
Oh yeah, you have to be within 10% of that estimate. Yeah,
But that's not engineering services, that's
that,
construction.
that's construction, but in general, contracts in general, yes. So if I do a bridge project and I estimate it at 500,000, if it were to come back at $555,000, I would have to rebid.
Right.
Would you accept a motion?
I certainly would.
I'd like to make motion that we accept the engineering bid,
Contract.
contract,
With,
Feller Finch.
Feller Finch. Okay, we have a motion,
I will second.
and we have a second. Roll call, please. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes. And yes.
Thank you both for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Both for coming up.
No, I thank you very much, and I do want to put on the record that none of this would have been possible without the work of our conservation district. Beth has been invaluable.
Appreciate
So.
that.
That's true. So,
All the credit, none of the blame.
huh? I'll take the blame. That's my job.
I'm the Kevlar, I told him.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, well, let's talk about, a topic we talked about from a fiscal standpoint for, it seems like at least a year now, and that is the Medicaid MCO sales tax issue. Mrs. Wilson, I'm gonna kind of let you do a summary of what the CCAO has come up with, or I guess the governor is proposing, then we can talk about that further.
Okay. I mean,
Let me frame it so that everybody remembers what's going on. A lot of our funding comes from sales tax. I think 9 million or thereabouts for the county. It has been decided that Medicaid is no longer sales taxable, for lack of a better way of saying it, and everybody in all the 88 counties are going to be adversely affected. Our estimate on an annualized basis was about 700,000, if I remember correctly. This year, it would stop theoretically as of July 31. So we would have basically 1/3 of that number that would affect our budget from an income standpoint. So that is the segue into this.
Yeah. Initially, we put this on at the request of, what county? Mahoney County.
Yeah, Mahoney.
They wanted us to pass a resolution, which I think I sent samples yesterday. This budget information came from CCAO yesterday. They've got some state replacement costs, how the state's gonna recoup their loss. On the local side, which I think, Mike, you said you had another update, what this says is basically they're gonna help the counties, the locals, for 2017. And they also talk about a formula that it could impact some of the counties not getting any funds. They talk about if you don't have your sales tax currently maxed out and whatever your percentage of your sales tax is based on your total revenue, which ours is about 41-42%, so.
Which is the range they talk about here.
Yep,
Well, the further conversation with CCAO was that the $40 million for this year
yep,
then would be annualized, again, that's 1/3, would be annualized to $120 million reimbursable back to the counties for fiscal year 18-19, I guess. We're in fiscal year 17-18, or will be by July 1. So this is not anything that's been approved, but it shows us that the state is very concerned about that lack of revenue coming to the counties and to the state, and are coming up with a replacement for that. This basically is a tax, but it's not a tax. You can call it what you want, it's kind of like the Affordable Care Act. The fact of the matter is, it's a service fee or an assessment
yep.
per customer at $1 or $2 a month who receive Medicaid. Now, it looks like a tax, sounds like a tax, but it's an assessment. But it's specific to those people, but it matches almost to a letter the amount that they would have had to pay had it been a sales tax. So that's the plan. Nobody knows whether it's going to get through the House or the Senate. Nobody knows whether it'll be part of the budget, but I think that the fact that we are addressing it and that they're looking for some way to augment our income statement to replace what the potential loss is here is a good thing, and they're doing it early. The word has always been to figure out a way to fill that hole, and this is one of the ways it's possible. Additional thoughts?
Yeah, this is really a push down from the feds. The feds have said you can't tax it any longer, so it's not really a Kasich budget issue other than they have to deal with it. And it's my understanding that tomorrow it goes to the House Finance Committee. So, we need to monitor it as it morphs and evolves over the next 60 days or so, it gets to the Senate and it goes in effect with June 30th, I guess, is the budget has to be passed, so.
Yeah, I think that, and we talked about it briefly, it affects us by it could potentially affect us by $700,000, but I think we looked at Cuyahoga County, it was a
Yeah, 15 million.
$15 million situation.
And regional transit authorities as well.
That's what this is.
Well, the good news is that that both the state and the counties have a healthy self-interest in generating the income that this potentially loses us. So we're not in the thing alone as a county group. The state also is affected. So I think that they'll have a self-interest in getting something approved, that's for sure.
So is there any interest in still following through with the resolution? It basically gives a history of the MCO tax, and then also puts in our numbers of what we would be losing, and just showing our support that they find a solution. It's kind of what the resolution,
Has everyone had an opportunity to read that from Hogan
Yeah.
County?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adopt that, is it a resolution?
yep.
To adopt that resolution?
A second.
Okay. Roll call? Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Gerber?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we have a few added items that we'll go through relatively quickly here. As most of you know, the Attorney General happened to be here for our last meeting Thursday, and one of the things, the takeaways was the fact that there will be a statewide conference called Fighting the Drug Epidemic in Ohio, and that will take place February 14th in Columbus, or in Winchester Pike, on Winchester Pike in Columbus. It'll talk about prevention, coalition work, the impact in trauma, and continuum of care. It goes from 9:30 until 3:15. So anyone from the public is invited, and we are certainly all invited to attend that if we wish. Again, it is February 14th, what a day, in Columbus.
And it is not a board day.
It's not a board day, but it is Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's.
Yeah. So, that is that item. Board of Election Construction, Commissioner Stacy.
And Stacy will kind of lead through this, she's got probably the numbers in front of her, but as we've been working on, with Encompass on the space renovations for the Board of Elections space, and had begun the advertising of, to get the bids in, and to actually set date, time, and place to open those bids. We did that in advance, because of timing of it, to keep it moving, of the actual engineering estimates, and Encompass wanted to check one more thing on engineering estimates, and this is where the shock factor comes in, and we're gonna pull the reins back just for a little bit of a hold, and I'll let Stacy take it from here with the not so good news.
They reached out to an additional engineer to get some more detailed figures, and the HVAC and the electrical came back quite a bit higher than what we anticipated. We set aside budget about $250,000 for the projects. It's almost doubled, not quite doubled, it's 480, and 115 of that is HVAC. The HVAC currently works, but it is a 20-year-old system, so we did recommend at the time to go ahead and replace that. The engineer is gonna go back and check out the system again to see, I mean, it's still a 20-year-old system, but it came back higher, and then the electrical came back higher than what they anticipated, so.
I wasn't involved with this originally, but I just want to understand the process. So we looked at that space, and then we had our engineers look at the space and give us an estimate.
Yep.
And
They
they
started
gave us,
assessing it for how it would be used and figuring out the best layout for it, all of those kinds of things.
okay, so we have a contract with them at that point for engineering?
Encompass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So we authorized them to come up with a plan, and they gave us an estimate of 250?
We told them that was our
We
budget.
told them that.
Okay, we said, see where you can get us for 250?
Right.
Is that, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to understand the process.
Yep.
how many square feet
Oh, you're gonna-
is this project?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's
Is it 20?
I don't remember. I don't have that with me.
3,800 square foot.
Okay, this is called 4,000 for the sake of conversation.
Yeah.
We're talking about $100 a square foot? Or more than that?
And that included the
Hell, we can
renovations of
build a
those.
building, can't we?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I mean, depending on how fancy you get, you can build a building at $100 a square foot. I mean, we have a shell, something is amiss here from
Exactly.
my standpoint. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know
because our
what,
original estimates for square footage of building was 4384.
okay, $43, that makes sense in renovating a building. $100
That was
sure
way
as hell
back,
doesn't
but-
make sense.
Right.
I don't know, we just, I guess, it's one of those things that we really need to look at,
Yeah.
again.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I'm talking about $100 a square foot, you know, that's probably low, that's probably not much of a building, but at $100 a square foot, that's new HVAC, you know, that's a new roof, that's, everything is brand new, that we wouldn't have to worry about in the future. You know, why would we spend that much money on 4,000 square feet? That just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just can't, that's not what we didn't project spending that
No,
kind
no,
of
no,
money.
I get, I'm not
Yeah.
blaming anybody.
Yeah, we
I'm just
can't.
saying the first impression of this thing is that something's not right here.
Yeah, and I know the building lends itself to some challenges in making those plumbing adjustments that were, you know, in there as ideas of things to do. The bathrooms are already ADA accessible and by everything because we've been in the building and so forth, but we thought about taking them up, you know, to current, well, we could take that out. There was a little bit of plumbing work projected into a small, not kitchenette, but area in the conference room. We said that would have to be eliminated, just because of the way that building is built apparently, and there wasn't plumbing in that portion of the building, that was expensive. And then, I'm not sure on the lighting part of it, but they indicated that lighting part of it was a huge cost too, above what they anticipated.
And they were looking at about 40 for the regional planning area.
Look, here, let's get a little different perspective on this. our obligation is to give the Board of Elections adequate space,
Yeah.
okay? If we, as a county, rented a 4,000 square foot building for about 2,500 a month, which is be about the cost, that's $30,000 a year. We could rent something for 15 years and not have any obligation to the repairs, the landlord would, and to have a perfectly fine building at $2,500 a month with plenty of space for the Board of Elections. So why would we put up $450,000 initially?
We wouldn't, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, no, I understand, but that's the argument here. You know, I think we need to talk about $300,000, okay? At $300,000, you got it covered for 10 years. So, we talked
Yeah.
about the need for storage space, maybe that's it. Maybe you hollow that thing out, you know, climate control it, and put shelving in there, make it a proper space to store things at 4,000 square feet. That's what we're looking for anyway, to store items. I mean, I'm not saying that's the solution, but I'm saying it certainly is an alternative. You know, there is no way in God's good earth that we're gonna spend.
Yeah, I don't like
There's
the
what,
way
it- there's
that,
what it looks like. That's the back room,
Yeah.
empty, and then there's the front.
But I don't want lost in the shuffle here. We want to give the Board of Elections good space. No, I mean, that we've developed a good relationship at this point, and I want that to continue. But they have to understand that from a fiscal standpoint, you know, we'll get them some space that makes a lot of sense, it's handicap accessible, and all the things that they need. But to spend this kind of money,
Yeah. Now, what we were going to do is have them come back with some thoughts on, again, back to, that's not our budget. This is our budget, so what would be the cuts that you'd make, and what would that look like, and what does that do? Can we get it down to our budget in that space? Is what we asked the Encompass to come back with.
yeah.
Well,
What
which-
I don't like about the contract is that the architect is on a percent of the project. You know, if they were on a lump sum, we could maybe say, find a way to get it done for X, and there'd be an incentive to do that. The incentive is backwards on this, because if they're a percent of the project, let it run, right? I mean, so, you know, I think we need to consider that, and that was the line of questioning I had for Mark. If they're a percent of the project, there's no incentive for them to
be efficient.
be efficient and find a cost-effective way to do it.
However, the risk they've got is that with where it's at now, we may not do it at all. You know, I mean, I'm just saying hypothetically, if cost gets too expensive, we're gonna say no. And so, I mean,
And I guess the county's always done percentage-based, the Justice Center was, you know, percentage-based for the engineer. All of our other projects have been percentage-based. Not that it's right, or not
Yeah.
that it's, you
No,
know.
but I think that's the way the world runs, you know, unfortunately or unfortunately, I suppose.
That just puts the incentive in the wrong place.
Right. Puts the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Right. See win today?
Yeah.
He win.
and again, back in November when we were looking at this, just as early November of 16, without the HVAC and the alternatives, which was the bathroom stuff, I believe, that point, we had the cost per square foot at $40.42. You know,
That's
so,
$160,000. I mean, we've gone
Well,
from
somebody missed something somewhere.
we went from 160 to 450 pretty quick.
well, like I said, then we put those in. We were trying to, on this little scenario, we're comparing it to the cost per square foot we were dealing with prosecutor's office, and wanted to know that we were,
In line.
that was already out there, that one was ahead of this project, so we thought it gave us a good benchmark for what locally was going on. And it did, because it put it right in there with that, and that's the reason we looked at this and pulled those out. Knowing it was all part of it, we had a budget of about $250,000. Yeah.
Well,
So what I need to do is basically rescind our resolution, setting the time, date, and place, until we can get this resolved. That's what I need to do, because bids are actually due next Tuesday, and we had already set time and date to receive these, because the engineer's estimate came in high. What we're suggesting is rescinding that, not hitting the bids in, till we can get this reevaluated.
We started advertising already?
Yes.
Yeah, because we set that,
we can revoke that, so we need a motion to approve that
Yep,
resolution.
yep.
so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Any other discussion? Well, roll call.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
This is the motion to rescind the motion.
Yes.
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 Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes. So we rescinded the motion, we don't need to then approve the new one?
No.
No, we're not ready for that, so.
Okay, very good. So Board of Elections, City of Tiffin?
Yes. I got a call from Dale Thornton, which is the city administrator. The city controls and handles our Pro Phoenix software, which the sheriff utilizes, villages utilize, basically shows all the dispatching where the cars are. The city has, let me know for a while now that these servers are gonna need replaced. One of the sergeants got a grant, to help pay for these servers. Let me see. The grant will be $7,600. The match that they are asking is half of what needs to be, so it's $2,700, so we would pay like $1,350 is what they're asking. I did talk to the sheriff's department, and they said that, the city was gracious enough at the beginning of this project. They implemented it, they paid for the project with some grant money. Then they're asking us to help upgrade the server, add additional switches. They are looking to, maybe offer this out to the city of Astoria to be involved, but currently this is just getting the system upgraded and back up to date.
So this total cost is $1,350 to us?
Yep, actually $1,317.42 is what they're asking for the county. Majority of it's in grant, the $7,600. So
This comes out of what fund then?
it'd be the general fund.
General.
That's what I wanted to ask,
And
just
it's
to make sure.
they have another grant, and again, for the match, our portion is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes. With our thanks to the city for handling this and taking the lead.
Yep.
Okay, regional planning, Shane.
I just wanted to mention that Active Transportation has taken off in regional planning, that the Transportation Committee has formed an ad hoc task force to look at bike lanes, bike trails, human-powered transportation across the county, and we've identified a grant for planning, and the group is committed to getting that grant submitted by March. And if anyone would want to follow along with our activities, there's a Facebook group, Seneca Active is a group, and we're going to be posting updates and local activity on that and keep people abreast of the progress of that committee.
Okay,
And expect, from a transportation standpoint, expect a updated plan, transportation plan, in the next month or so.
okay, thank you. Any other additions to the agenda? Old business. New business. Go ahead, start.
All right, I have a resolution authorizing the sale of county-owned property. This is a 1995 Ford ambulance. We did post this up on Gov Deals, and it sold for $5,606.
Woo-hoo.
A resolution authorizing Seneca County Board of Commissioners to certify the 2016 county highway system mileage for certificate. This is for 16, not 17. Nikki?
Yeah, that's what it said on all, she
Okay.
sent that to me.
Okay. And I have a resolution amending the board's orders of December 27, 2016, volume 92, page 654. This is just amending our resolution, hiring Tanya Huffert. It was put in the resolution as an hourly position, and the contract says salary, so we just changed the wording, and so it reflects the pay for an annual salary instead of hourly.
And that's all I have.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion, roll call please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirchner?
Yes. Now, if and when we go into executive session, do we expect any action afterwards?
I don't think so.
I do not.
No
Okay,
action.
I don't either. So let's allow for public comment at this point before we adjourn to executive session. Yes,
On the courthouse, I read something in the paper where, the new courthouse,
yes.
where you're trying, somebody is trying to cheapen the building up with flooring. Flooring in that building is gonna take a beating. I can't see cheapening that up in
Well,
any way.
let me explain that to you a little bit. We looked at what we asked them to do, because our owner's contingency is starting to evaporate.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make certain that we had some wiggle room. So give us 10 items that, we could reduce. One of them was the flooring, and I can tell you that the same discussion was had there that you're talking about now. One of the things they decided is that absolutely the first floor would be tile. That if anything ever had to happen, that enhanced vinyl might go on some of the other ones because they are less traffic. But we would prefer to keep that tile there. I think that number was 50,000, is that right?
Yeah, because if we did, switched it all over, the savings was
50,000.
about 74, and so if we left the first floor, the ceramic tile, we'd have,
Yeah,
about
okay.
50,000.
Okay, so we were looking at, there's a lot of things in there, there are 3,600, 1,200, whatever. Not even hardly worth the discussion, Tom, but we were looking at big items. Flooring was one of those, and the second big item, Holly, was, there was another big,
The ceramic tile wainscoting used in
yeah,
some of those
on the walls themselves.
public door areas.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate trying to save money.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I appreciate that part. I just,
And I gotta tell you that John brought up the fact too,
Yeah.
that even though they said that, these things are pre-waxed and don't need any
Yeah.
maintenance, maybe for the first 5 years, that's true. But then when the time comes, now we got a situation with the wooden
Yeah.
baseboards, et cetera, that we could ding those up pretty hard, et
Yeah.
cetera. So, as I had said earlier, we were able to keep all the features on the exterior of the building because we would have had to have made those decisions by now. My hope and my prayer is that we're able to keep the spec, what's going on the inside. And it looks like, because we have allocated 16.7 or so to the project, that it's gonna, or 15.7 is gonna commit it, right now projected to be like 16.6 or so, or 15.6, I don't know.
15.
15, so, or 14, right, I'm sorry, it's projected to commit at 14.7 right now, I think.
Yes.
14.7 is the total projected cost. So we're trying to keep it under that $15 million and still keep enough
Good.
contingency in there just in case. In theory, as you know about construction, once it comes out of the ground, there ought to be fewer and fewer modifications that have to be made.
well, my thought was cookie cutter.
Yep,
We
you're
don't want
absolutely
to make a
right.
cookie cutter out of it.
You're absolutely right, and there was some real pushback on all that stuff, but you gotta know your options,
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Anything else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirchner?
Yes. We are going into executive session at
Can we keep-
10:54.
Can we keep Stacy in?
Absolutely. Okay.